Hello, farmers, and welcome to another episode of The Harvest Season. My name is Al.
And my name is Jonnie.
And we are here today to talk about cottagecore games. Ooh. As always, transcripts are available in the show notes and on the website. This episode, me and Jonnie will be talking about Starstruck Vagabond, the new game by Yahtzee Croshaw of Zero Punctuation fame. Although
now fully Ramblomatic fame.
That's what it's called. Yeah, no, it's not fully Is it not? He's got two, because he's got fully Ramblomatic and a different one, which is, or maybe it's fully Ramblomatic than the standard one.
Yeah, yes. that's the new version under Second Wind, I think is their new banner. Yeah.
Yeah, which is basically just all the video team from The Escapists who got fired or quit. That worked out.
But now
well
you can support them much more directly, which is in some ways preferable.
Yes, fewer management. And they have, I feel like they've been massively increasing the amount of content they're doing. Like, there's so much stuff now. Which, I mean, I don't do it all because, like, I don't care about their TTRPG stuff, and I don't care about their Let's Play stuff, but I really enjoy most of their podcasts and a lot of the kind of shorter videos they do. So, it's good. Anyway, so yeah, we'll be talking about Starstruck Vagabond. Before that, we obviously have some news. But first of all, Jonnie, what have you been up to?
I have been up to, I think a game that came out last year called Chance of Sinar. And one of the things that I learned about this game is, like, as a name written down, it looks great. When you say it out loud, people have no idea what you've just said. It's a confusing jumble of terms, but it kind of works for the game because the game is all about translating languages. And it's a really fun game. I kind of completed it over the course of a weekend. And it was one of those games because I had a friend visiting me, and just in our downtime between doing stuff, we would just play a bit of it, and it was a really fun game to play with someone else on the couch because it's a lot of working out stuff, a lot of guesses about what you want, what you think things mean, and having a second brain to that sees things differently, I think was really valuable for playing through the game. But it was just a really fun experience, great puzzles, great story. Really contained, it was probably 5 or 6 hours end to end, and it was just a really, really fun game. I would highly, highly recommend Chance of Sinar.
Interesting. It has overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, and it's currently on sale.
And it's currently on Game Pass, which is where I played it.
Fair enough. I do not have Game Pass because I have too many games unplayed anyway.
Yeah, I feel like you getting Game Pass would just be you would just continually be adding things to a wish list or a backlog that you're never actually going to get to, and you would never actually play anything.
The funny thing is, I've literally got my Steam wish list open just now, right? Because obviously everything is on sale just now, and I'm like, what am I going to buy? And the problem is, half of these games I can't remember adding to my wish list. Death's Door. I don't know what this game is, but apparently I added it to my wish list, and it's currently 75% off. When did I add this to my wish list? I have no idea. Oh, wait, it does tell you, doesn't it? I added it in 2021. Okay, so a while ago.
Yeah. I feel like it's time to let that one go.
Yeah, I do feel like it's one of these things where some of them, when they're up at 80, 70% off, if I'm not going to buy it when it's that much off, I'm removing it from my wish list. So, yeah, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 currently on my list that are 70% off and above.
Well, that could be a fun new game. Is it buy or remove?
Oh my word, why did I start counting this?
It's good it's not like we're under a time crunch this morning.
Just let me finish. I have 77 on my wish list on sale just now.
I don't think I have 77 on my wish list.
I have 160 on my wish list. Part of the problem...
Oh my god.
Right, part of the problem is that I add every single farming game that we talk about on the podcast to my wish list to keep track of it. Right? That makes it okay,
yeah,
right?
That does make sense.
Maybe. Okay, cool, great. What have I been up to? I have been playing Go-Go Town. more coming about that later. I don't want to talk about that just now, but I've been playing it. I've also been playing Dave the Diver. Have you played Dave the Diver? You have played Dave. I don't know if you've actually started it yet or not.
I have downloaded Dave the Diver, and I have done the tutorial of Dave the Diver, I think.
You might want to hurry up. You've got probably about 10 hours of gameplay before you can even play the bit that you need to talk about on the podcast.
Oh my god.
Just be thankful you're not on the Godzilla one. You have to finish 5 chapters, and I'm halfway through chapter 2, and it's taking a while. I don't know why it's so far through. Probably because Godzilla is probably quite hard to do. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Dave the Diver. I'm enjoying it so far. I feel like it's about to get very grindy where I am, but it's interesting. And we'll talk more about that in the future, maybe. Spoilers.
I know you don't want to talk about Go-Go Town, but I also downloaded the early access for Go-Go Town and had a quick play of it. And I was very quick. I maybe played an hour of it. That game does feel very early access. And I think I said this in the Slack, but it's way more... seems like resource management town buildery than it does Animal Crossing-y, which I don't know I super loved. So I'm really interested in how that game develops over early access, but my initial take was like, oh, I don't really want to play this now. I want to put this down and play it a bit later. So I'm looking forward to hearing your take on it in a future episode, Al.
Maybe. Yeah, I think the only thing I'll say just now is that they have posted a big update on Steam talking about what they're going to do and how they've changed what they're going to do based on feedback. So might be worth having a look at that. But yeah, I will talk more about that maybe in the future. I don't know. Don't want to spoil anything.
I do. I love spoiling things.
And I've been continuing playing Farm RPG. I don't know if I'm enjoying it, but I'm playing it.
A ringing endorsement.
I'm at crafting level 95 now, farming level 82, fishing level 77, and exploring level 76. Oh, it's quite a grind at this point, but I keep going. I guess the thing is that I'm not actually spending a huge amount of time each day on it, right? Like it's maybe a total of 10 minutes in a day. So we'll see if I'm still doing it in the next episode. It's a new regular section of the podcast. Is Al still playing Farm RPG? Yes.
Look, I feel like this is like when Cody was playing her cult. What was the cult game that she was playing? Where Tetris? That's the one.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to I'm not trying to win a cruise with mine.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. Oh dear. Let's just not talk about how much money I've put into the game. So we're going to talk about some game news. So first up, we have the exciting news that Jonnie's leaning on the keyboard in the show notes.
I'm not leaning on the keyboard. I'm trying to work out what the hell's going on with my computer. It's right.
Oh no. I hope this podcast recording works. We have the exciting news that Mika and the Witch's Mountain is releasing on the 21st of August on Steam and Switch.
Ooh. Only like a year after their initial release date that they were very confident about hitting.
Yeah.
This is very exciting.
I'm very excited, not least because it's happening after my my month-long not being at home and not having to deal with podcast. Yeah, so I'm very excited that it's not releasing just now because I might have cried.
Oh, and the way they did the announcement, because I don't know if you follow them on Instagram, but it was they posted the day before saying like, we'll answer the most asked question that we get today tomorrow, and I was like, I really hope they are announcing the release date for Mika and the Witch's Mountain, because that is by far and away going to be their most asked question, and in fact they were. So very exciting news for that game. There was a new trailer that came along with the announcement. I don't know that I picked up anything new other than this game looks like what they've promised it's going to be, and it looks pretty fun. Let's see how it plays.
Yeah, I think this game very much will come down to how the controls feel. That's it. Like, if it feels good to fly, it'll be a fun game no matter anything else. If it doesn't feel fun to fly, nothing will save it. Even the froggy.
I could not agree more.
Next, we have Tiny Garden. This is the Polly Pocket farming game. They've announced that their Kickstarter will launch on the 2nd of July. So, there we go. Another Kickstarter for me to back.
I still think this game looks cool, right? Because I'm curious how it is going to manifest into a game, because the Polly Pocket size of stuff is so small. But this one has me like super intrigued because it's doing the cool nostalgia thing, and in a way that I'm very interested how it manifests in gameplay.
Yeah, I suspect it might feel quite kind of Tamagotchi-esque, right? Where the idea is not playing the game for lots of time. It's like dip in and out and, deal with your fart. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was real time, but I guess we'll see. I don't know if I want it to be real time, but we'll see. And, the trailer shows lots of different designs, so I suspect you'll be able to... Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you could you collect lots of them and you open up your different ones to see what your gardens are currently doing inside there or something. Rather than just changing the design of your tiny garden, right? Like, it feels like you're collecting gardens, but we shall see. Next, we have Terra Nil. Their new update, Vita Nova, is out now, and they've posted a bunch of information about it. Have you looked through this at all?
I have not looked at this one at all, but since we recorded who did I record that episode with? Must have been with Kevin. When we recorded the episode on Terra Nil, I hadn't finished Terra Nil, and I keep intending to go back, and every time I see something about Terra Nil, I'm interested in going back, but I think this might be the update that finally sort of lures me back in, particularly with Terra Nil being available. I think it's available through Netflix on mobile.
It is, yes.
So
that's a good point. I should try it because I have Netflix just now. I should try it on mobile, see what it's like.
Yeah. So they've got some new missions, which I assume means new maps to play on. I think there's about 11 in the initial game. And they've overhauled the animal functionality, which is really interesting. So the way the animal system worked in the past is that it was kind of like the last thing you would do, and it felt very clunky. You would effectively build a special building, and then you would have to ping certain parts on the map, and if it met enough of the requirements for a particular animal, that animal would show up. And so it felt like this very clunky thing where, I remember on the first map getting frustrated because one animal I couldn't quite bring back because I was half a point off of needing, a certain area in a certain radius to bring back the final animal. But equally, I had no resources at that point to re-terraform anything, so I was kind of just like, I feel stuck in a way that wasn't particularly fun. And this change...
So was it quite binary then, where it was like you either have them or you don't, sort of thing? You've either done the checklist to get the animals back or you haven't?
Correct, yeah.
Right. Whereas here it looks like it says the habitat may be sufficient for them to survive, but not ideal for them to thrive. So it's like you can get them back with less work, but then you have to work more to get, them to reproduce or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, so be curious how it works, and it was a really, there was good bones in the system, right? So it's like, one of the requirements on the first map for wolves to appear is there had to be deer already in a location nearby, right? Because they need something to eat, which totally makes sense. So I feel like there was good bones. So this is actually a really exciting change to it was probably slightly frustrating because it was at the end where you were sort of relatively low on resources. It was just your ability to sort of re-influence at that point when you didn't really know what you needed to be building towards was a bit frustrating. So I like the idea of what this is doing.
Makes sense. Cool. Looks like
they've
added a new world map as well for viewing things.
Yeah, I don't know that changes much, other than I guess making the world feel more like a real world that you are restoring, which is kind of cool. But Yeah, it's a pretty nice little update.
Cool. And that's live now. So, guess it's time for you to play Terra Nil, Jonnie.
Great.
Speaking of updates that we've got more information for Disney Dreamlight Valley, the Lucky Dragon update is now out, and they've detailed everything in the update. I don't know if I don't know if I want to go through all this stuff because there's a lot of stuff. Well, yeah, it's Mulan, but we already knew Mulan, right? But like, they've detailed a bunch of the stuff around Mulan, and it looks like they've also got some more stuff around Stitch, Lilo and Stitch, and there's a new event around Inside Out 2. That's probably about enough information, isn't it? Don't want to go too detailed if people are wanting to play it, but there you go. So if you want Mulan, go befriend Mulan now then. Moonstone Island have a new free DLC, which is the Pool Party DLC. That's it.
Right. The snorkel floaty looks really dumb and cute. I love that he's wearing a snorkel. Like, it's, I don't know, there's something about it that's very silly.
Yes, yeah, that's funny. Go get it if you've been playing the game. Okay, Harvest Moon, Home Sweet Home. Dear goodness, I really don't know what to do with this game. So they've posted a bunch of screenshots of this game, which I will remind you is iOS and Android only. So first of all, it looks like it's going to be a horizontal game, because all the screenshots are like widescreen screenshots. Interestingly, it looks almost identical to Winds of Anthos, the newest game. So I'm starting to worry that it might just be that, but mobile, and presumably like scaled down in some cases because it's probably too much for phones. I mean, I like the look of Winds of Anthos, so I'm not against it looking similar, right? Like, my issue with that game was not how it looked. I thought the game looked really nice. I just didn't enjoy playing it. So I'm not particularly enthused about playing this game. We have no idea about gameplay because it's just some screenshots. They do show some fishing and some animals, and a bunch of buildings and characters. I believe there's one character who was in Harvest Moon One World. I'll be honest, I don't remember any characters in Harvest Moon One World because they were so forgettable.
I'm going to be honest, this game looks so ugly, I thought it was Pokemon for a second.
Wow, you don't like the look of it at all?
No, it's terrible.
Interesting.
And these screenshots show nothing about the game. Like,
no,
it's this is like when you're posting screenshots, like, because you think people are excited about like just literally anything that you do. And I do not think that is the case of this Harvest Moon Home Sweet Home. Like, yeah, like you say, we need to actually see what the game is.
Yeah, it's like when Pokemon post like a new Pokemon and people are like, "Whoa, it's a new Pokemon!" They're expecting that sort of reaction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't, because I was expecting, because it's a mobile game, something mobile specific, but this just looks, without any actual idea of what the gameplay is, it looks like it might just be Harvest Moon Winds of Anthos with a different story. That's what it feels like it might be, and I'm really worried if that's the case, because that wasn't fun to play with a controller, never mind with a touchscreen.
Yeah.
But we'll see. They have reconfirmed that there will be no in-app purchases, which is good, and they are not planning any DLC, which is something. That is information, I guess. Yeah, but no idea about how it plays, what's happening with this game, what it is, why it exists. You know, it is what it is. We'll see. Very weird, I will say, why they announced this game like 3 weeks ago with no information, and then 3 weeks later they post screenshots. Like, are they trying to build the hype up, but they don't know how?
That's what it feels like. It feels like somebody said, "Hey, we need to start marketing this game," and then people that have no idea about marketing said, "Okay," and this is what we get.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be fun because they're probably going to dump a whole bunch of information about it while I'm on holiday. So we're going to be
you
really
can rest
delayed
easy
with
in knowing that it
news.
probably won't be very good.
It's not like I'm not going to play it though, right? Let's not pretend.
Oh, you're definitely going to play it, but it's not like the rest of us will be missing out on anything because we're not hearing the news.
Yeah. Fair enough. Any excuse for a Micah episode. Next, we have an update on Bear and Breakfast. So for those who don't remember or weren't listening to the episode when we talked about it, there was an update about the health issues in the team. So one of the team members was diagnosed with cancer last year, was it? The end of last year, I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
And that was like just before their console release, I think, but they managed to get that out in time. But that has obviously delayed the updates that they were planning on bringing out, which obviously almost everybody in the replies are, get better, we hope the update can wait. But they obviously felt like they needed to give some more information, so they've kind of given some more information about the update that they're working on, but no like details on the update itself, just like they're still going on, and they're hoping to get some other announcements not related to the update coming in about a month, which I'm intrigued by.
Me too.
So there we go. There's a bit more information about the update and what's coming. Oh, wait, no, I've scrolled down the page. It's a plushie. There's a plushie of the bear.
Oh my god, hold on. I feel like I scrolled down the page and I missed this plushie of a bear now. Because for anyone that doesn't remember the Bear and Breakfast episodes, go back and listen to them. Oh my god, yeah, okay. That's a good tease of a plushie.
Yeah.
I think I got to like the end of the paragraph and I just did not scroll down to the
image. Yeah. Whereas I just scrolled all the way down and saw the image and went, oh, there we go. So presumably it'll be a makeshift, and presumably it'll come up, and Jonnie will cry over whether he wants to get it or not.
I will definitely cry.
The question is whether your wallet will cry or not as well. Next, we have a new game announced. The game we've all been waiting for, Jonnie. It's Farming Simulator 25.
Is it a new game? Does this count?
Well, it's a game that's being released that you have to buy separately if you didn't have the previous. If you had the previous one, and
I like that answer better.
So, that I think would be the definition of a new game.
I'm not sure. I'm still not convinced.
It feels very philosophical, but I feel like it would be incorrect to say this is an update to a previous game, because that would imply that you would get it without purchasing. And I think it would be incorrect to say it's a DLC, because you don't have to have a previous game to buy this one. So I don't know what else you would call this.
I would say they're re-releasing Farming Simulator, say 2018, with some minor tweaks.
Look, it's the FIFA of farming games, right?
Yeah, and I would make that same argument.
We're going to have to change that metaphor though, because it's not FIFA anymore.
Is it not? I don't follow.
Basically, I can't. You don't have to follow football or football games to have been aware of this. But basically, FIFA asked EA for more money for the trademark for the games. So they were paying, I think, $1 billion a year, and they were asking for $2 billion a year. And so EA said no, thank you. And so they lost the trademark because of that. And so now they call it EA Sports FC, as in football club. And at first thought, I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. That feels like a mistake on EA's part, because like FIFA brand is so big. But then I realized no one else is making a game for them. And if they are, it's going to take years. And by that point, people will have accepted the new name. And therefore, I think FIFA just lost $1 billion a year.
That sounds like FIFA being FIFA.
So yeah, EA Sports FC is the new name for the games that were previously called FIFA. But it doesn't roll off the tongue as well. It's not a great name. But I don't think people playing the game care about the name. They go in and look for the new game that is a football game that has a footballer on the front of it and says EA, right? Like, they're going to, if they go in and ask for FIFA, the people in the store are going to point to EAFC, right? They know what they're talking about. Anyway.
Yeah. I always feel like I should go and work for FIFA because it's just like a place where you can be incompetent and get paid a lot of money. And I feel like I would be really good at that.
It's not just about being incompetent. It's about, being corrupt. That's
I'll do whatever.
Part of the job description.
Cool. I'm okay with that. Just pay me.
Anyway, Farming Simulator. So they're releasing Farming Simulator 25, whatever you might call it. That's a thing that exists. It's coming out on the 12th of November on Steam, Mac and PC, and PlayStation and Xbox. And there's rice. Right, let me read. We've got some information on Steam. I can probably read it all in about 30 seconds. Farming Simulator 25, new crops, animals, productions, and more. 400 plus machines included with enhanced graphics and physics. Farming Simulator 25 floods the fields with a host of new machines, gameplay features, visual upgrades, and even fresh water to grow rice, adding even more agricultural depth and diversity to the family-friendly series. New crops, animals, and other features. It says some more. I don't think it gives any more information, but it has some more words. 2 types of rice, spinach, and other new crops. I love how that they mention 2 crops and then they say and others. And they've added mighty buffaloes and other animals. Again, that was a list of 1. I'm not convinced that you have a long list when you say buffaloes and others. Like, I'm not thinking that that's a long list when you only chose 1.
Yeah, what I'm most fascinated by is, like, how big is the team that's working? Like, I don't understand the economics of Farming Simulator at all, because there's just so much art that goes into these games. It's ridiculous. I don't know how they do it all.
So apparently the games have sold over 25 million copies combined. That doesn't feel like a lot.
No, like...
Farming Simulator 22, which was their last big one, sold 6 million copies.
That's not that many.
No, it's really not.
Like Pokemon sells tens of millions of copies and they can't even draw good trees.
The people in this trailer are very Uncanny Valley. I don't know what you think.
Oh, like, okay, and this is all, like, so Farming Simulator does these ridiculous cinematic trailers, and it's not just, like, they do these trailers, but, like, the game starts with, some ridiculous cinematics. They're very Uncanny Valley. I'm just like, how do they have the budget to make this?
The buffalo looks great in the trailer. The people look creepy, but the buffalo looks great. It looks like his hairs are individually modelled. Why have they done this? This in itself probably wiped out their budget for the game, only selling 6 million copies.
Right. Why have they done this is just a great, like, all-round question for Farming Simulator.
Like, it's not even a very expensive game, right? Like, it's, like, 30 or 40 quid, I think, brand new? It's not even, like, 60, 70. And so, like, 6 million... Are they making money?
They've got to be somewhere. Maybe it's all the DLC that they do. Maybe that's the real business model.
Of course. Of course. They have brands in the game. That's exactly what it is. Because every DLC is like, oh, here's a new brand of machine. 150 brands. The brands are obviously paying to get in the game. That's how they make the money. There we go. Done. Anyway, if you want a new farming simulator that has rice, there you go. But yes, this feels like a glorified DLC shoved into the game. All right. I think that's all the news. Interesting selection of news. Next, we're going to talk about Starstruck Vagabond. Okay, so where to start on this? So I guess first of all, just a quick reminder, this is the new game by Yahtzee Croshaw. It is a delivery-based game, shall we say, where you have a ship, or you get a ship, and then you use that to make deliveries, and yeah, that's it, right?
Yep, that's the game.
I I feel like I'm going to struggle, probably like you, to explain my feelings about this game. I don't I don't think I dislike it. I think you have said you do dislike it.
I would like to say that I loathe this game.
Wow, that is quite a word, right? Do we want to talk about the mechanics first, or do you want to talk about your feelings about it first?
Maybe I'll talk about my feelings first, and then we can use that as a segue into the mechanics. And
Sure.
like, fundamentally, so I like the vibe of this game. I think the music in the game is incredible. The art style is not for everyone, but it totally makes sense in terms of like both the scope of the development and what the game is going for. This game is so unfun to play. I couldn't I rage quit this game. I tried to play it like 3 or 4 times, and every session after about 15 minutes ended up with me just like rage quitting the game and needing to play something else. I just never had fun trying to do anything in this game because mechanically it is so clunky. There was just, I couldn't, like, it wasn't like the first time I played it and I think I rage quit, I was like, maybe it's just me, right? Like, you've got to give these things a chance. But the more I played, the less I wanted to be playing this game. There was nothing enjoyable about it. And it's shocking to me that a game in this state made it to release. I just don't see, I struggle to see where someone designing this game thought the fun lived, because I cannot see it.
We're definitely not getting a retweet from Yahtzee. He doesn't strike me the sort of person that wouldn't listen before he retweets something, as some developers very clearly do when I post about talking about their game and they retweet and I'm like, you didn't listen to this because you just slag off your game. Okay, I don't feel the same as that. It's not that I love the game, though. Oh, goodness. I don't know why I'm struggling so much to explain how I feel about this game. Let's go through the mechanics, and maybe we can talk about individual things, and maybe that will give me a better idea of how I feel about this game overall.
Let's talk.
So the idea is you have your ship, and you go to a place, and you pick up packages, and you take that to another place. And as you go, you upgrade your ship, and there's story and things happen. But there are basically like 4 main mechanics, and that is carrying things to your ship and away from your ship. And then the 3 mechanics that are basically only ever on your ship, and that is welding, cleaning, and I've said wrenching because I'm not really sure how to describe it other than you've got a wrench and you twist things. Like, things are out of alignment and you have to make them in alignment.
That's how I would describe it.
There's never really any kind of like problem solving with this. It's very much like, you can tell that the idea behind this was not to be a puzzler. Obviously, it's meant to be, just doing things to upgrade things. Like, it looks at Stardew and goes, how do I do that sort of thing but not in farming, and kind of replaces things like watering and mining and stuff with these things instead. And so like when something happens and you need to use one of these mechanics, it's like very clear the icon shows you, right? Like you see a little welder or you see a little cleaner thing. I don't even know what it is we're using to clean. Is it like a high pressure? It's not like a sponge or anything. It's like some...
Yeah, I thought it was like some sort of like water
device.
gun. Yeah.
And then, or it shows the wrench. These are always very reactive, I guess. So like if you're traveling and you hit an asteroid, your ship will stop and you have to go and fix everything. Or you'll come across someone who's sent out an SOS and you have to go aboard their ship and you have to help them. They're not really used as... I guess maybe that's kind of my issue with these parts, is they're they're about getting back to the state that you were in rather than improving the state, right? Like everything in a farming game is giving you something, either giving you crops or giving you a resource of some kind to build that up. Technically, the welding does give you resources when you go to planets. I forgot about that, but we'll come back to that in a minute. But like on your ship, there is no getting things. Your ship is just a way to get between places, and these mechanics are just about, oh, your ship's broken, you got to fix it.
Yeah, and I think what you've hit on is probably my fundamental issue with the game is that these mechanics entirely exist to stop you from moving in the game, and there's nothing particularly fun about them. And I think the insight that all it is returning your ship to a state where it can fly, rather than about making any, improvement to it, is exactly right. Because, one of the times I rage quit this game is my ship got damaged flying from planet A to planet B, and I went to fix it, and I died while fixing it. I have no idea why I was dying.
I know why you died. I know why you died, because I had that issue as well. You were out of stamina.
So, that was super unclear to me.
Yeah, I think once you've done that and you realized it, it then becomes more clear. But yeah, I found it a bit confusing when that happens, because you're like, oh, I'm losing health, and you're like, oh, is this because I need to do things quicker because like the life support system isn't working, so I need to do it quicker. So
that's what quicker. I thought it was. Yep.
But that makes you die quicker because it's your stamina that's the issue.
So like that stuff, like, and that's just like, I was already not playing the game, and to then die and be told that you're going to be charged some amount of money, I was just like, I'm straight up not having a good time with this. I didn't want to work it out. I just wanted to not play. That was how that experience made me feel, because it didn't feel like a puzzle. It's like I'm already feel like I'm being punished for not being particularly good at the kind of terrible piloting mechanics. Like, just nothing mechanically about this game was like, wow, I feel like I'm, having fun being a space delivery man. It all felt like I'm prevented from being a space delivery man because I have to be a mechanic that keeps dying. Like, and that was a huge point of frustration for me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think it's probably fairly accurate to how hard space travel is, right? Like, just constantly things going wrong. Because space travel is hard. But that doesn't necessarily mean that bit's fun. Yeah, I think it didn't make me rage quit the game, but I certainly got frustrated when it was like, oh, you're going to another planet to do a thing, and oh no, now I have to spend 5 minutes going and clicking on 10 different things in my ship just to continue moving, and you get nothing from that. Yeah, I didn't find that fun. The welding, let's talk about the welding on the planets. Did you get to a planet and getting resources from that?
Not outside of the tutorial.
But do you do that in the tutorial?
Yeah, you get the, what do they call it? It's the not worth anything. It's not called that, but it's something like that. Yeah.
I feel like that's the best part of the game, personally, because kind of. I dislike it in some ways as well, but let's come to that. I like that idea. That's kind of the thing that most I enjoy, is the idea of you going to these unexplored planets and getting stuff from them. And that was certainly when I was having the most fun. What I didn't like about it was how you have no inventory. Right, and not for those things you get on, you technically do have an do you? No, I don't think you ever have, like, you can't put things in pockets, you can't put them in a bag. All you can do is grab something and put it on your platform. And so that limits you to taking 3 things from a planet at once. Which,
can we talk about the 3 things thing? Because my God, that drove me insane. Like the movement in this game, where I get that, like, the space on your ship is kind of meant to be one of the limiting factors, but it's so restrictive at the start. I spent maybe there's another time I rage quit the game was because I couldn't work out that I had the specific square on the landing platform that you need to lower the landing platform blocked off with one of the things that I was meant to be delivering. And like, that's not a fun game mechanic. That's just a frustrating user experience, right? Like, just let me put four things on the landing platform that has the loading platform that has four spaces on it and let that go up and down. Like, just not being able to move around the ship like so early on because I've got 3 or 4 boxes in there. Again,
Yeah.
nothing fun about that.
Yeah, and you have no real storage space on your ship to start with. And even after you've upgraded it at least once, because I upgraded it at least once, you still don't have any storage space. You're like plonking it in random places, blocking you off from getting to places.
Yeah, and I don't mind like a bit of a Tetris puzzle to go with storage, but again, it didn't really feel like a puzzle as much as just like, hey, the natural place where you want to put this stuff is the wrong spot to put this stuff, and it's just going to prevent you from playing more of the game. Which is that's how I feel about most of the mechanics of this game. Most of the mechanics feel like they exist just to make sure that the game actually has some length to it.
Yeah. So yeah, I found it felt a little bit when I was on that planet and I was gathering things and I was like, oh, the realization that I can only take 3 things from this planet. It felt very much like the first time I played Animal Crossing New Leaf, where you're like gathering like apples and stuff and you can only stack up to 9 in your inventory, and I'm like, why is that so restrictive? And I don't know, maybe there are people that find that sort of thing fun, right? Because there are games based around these sorts of things, the like Strand games where it's like you have to have, very limited space in your bag, so you have to only take certain stuff. I don't find that fun. And having that in this game massively reduced my enjoyment of that. I think if that in particular, like if you had an inventory for everything, I guess, other than packages, right? Like I understand why the packages would be like physical things, because that's the whole point of the game, is you're delivering things, right? But things like your upgrade units and your rocks and stuff like that, they still have to take up the same amount of space as a massive package. Like that doesn't feel right to me, and it feels unfun.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really good point that I think has been missed in a lot of cottagecore genres. Like, actually, inventory management is not fun, and I feel like this is something that has persisted, because it probably existed due to technical limitations of games in earlier times. That doesn't need to exist anymore, because the games that I most enjoy that have an inventory management aspect is because there is some associated challenge where having a limited inventory kind of, impacts the difficulty of the game, right? There are some games where it's like, well, yeah, if I could take infinite healing potions, of course I could kill the boss. Like, but, if I can only take 3 with me, then that becomes much more of a challenge. Cottagecore games don't have any, like, it's not like the game gets harder or more difficult because you've got limited inventory. It just becomes more frustrating if you've got a limited inventory, which is not the same thing.
Yeah, and I suspect that the whole point was to be like, yeah, you have a small ship and you have to deal with that. But yeah, the idea that a rock is going to take up as much space as it does in my ship doesn't make any sense. You can get a lot of rocks in a box.
Yep.
I can put rocks in my pocket, but I can only put 3 of them on my loading platform. Silly. Okay, so that I feel moves into the deliveries, right? Because we've talked about getting stuff from planets, and the deliveries. I think I wonder. So your point about not being able to put 4 on the platform that has 4 slots, yeah, that's very annoying. I get that. I completely agree with you on that, and I think that would make a massive difference to the game. I totally understand why the boxes take up space on your ship, and I think I would be fine with that if it were for a few changes. And one of them would be your starting ship actually having somewhere to store stuff that isn't just the corridors, right? Like one small space, like make it 4 spaces to start with, right?
Agreed.
And then if you take on a delivery that's more than 4, then you have to deal with that annoyance, right? I get that's the kind of, not risk, right? Because it's not really a risk, it's an annoyance, but you're balancing the annoyance with getting more reward in a shorter period of time, and that I think totally works.
100%, right? Because I think the Tetris puzzle aspect of it is kind of fun in the idea that it's like, oh, I now, yeah, like you say, I want to carry more, so I'm going to overflow from my storage space into my corridors, and now I need to build paths and stuff so I can make sure I can still get around to everything. That's totally fine, right? Because at that point it feels like a choice. It was just never a choice.
Yeah. And it doesn't even need to necessarily have a new area on the shift. Just being able to like walk around your storage area when it's full, that would solve it, right? You're not your storage area, your loading platform, right? Because you have to walk through your loading platform to get to the back of the ship by default, right? So if you could just walk around it, that would solve the problem. And then you can upgrade your ship later on to have more storage space or whatever.
Absolutely.
I think that's my only real annoyance about the deliveries part of it. Like, other than obviously, I know, you're not a huge fan of the ship movement. I didn't dislike that. I thought it was quite fun. I don't know whether you realise this or not, but you didn't have to do that mini game when you're travelling. If you just exited out of it, your ship would fly itself, but you wouldn't get any of the advantages of the mini game.
Are there advantages to the mini game?
Mm-hmm. So, you didn't get to the warp core bit, did you?
No.
So basically, there are 3 things that happen on that. Well, there are 4 things that happen on that mini screen. So one of them is the meteors that you have to avoid. 2 is there's like clouds of dirt, and if you go through them, you have to clean your ship. 3 is the SOS, so you can hear SOS calls and go to them. That would be one of the advantages. You don't get them if you don't do the minigame. And going to the SOS calls allow you to get more stuff. You can get money by fixing people's ships and stuff like that. But the other one is the little orange clouds on the minigame screen. Those are actually things you can collect to get warp core fuel. So you can get free warp core fuel by flying through them.
Oh, I thought that they were... I think I was avoiding them because I assumed that they were...
It explains that once... Yeah, so it explains that once you get the warp core, that you can fly through them and replenish your warp core fuel. So, because otherwise you have to buy warp core fuel.
Right. So I never got the warp core, so... Yeah.
So, like, you need the warp core to move between the planetary systems, and you start off without a warp core, so you can only go between, was it 3 planets in the first system?
Yeah, I think 3.
And then you need a certain amount of warp core fuel to get to 1 system away, and a certain amount to get to 2 away, blah, 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 blah. So, I actually quite like the way they do that. Maybe they didn't explain it well enough, in that you can actually exit out of it, and you don't... I think maybe it slowly builds up dirt that you have to clean off, but you don't, if you're on top of things while you're flying, you can go and clean it while you're flying, so you don't end up stopping. But I do think that is it. The game doesn't really explain that. I think the tutorial is half good in that it is, I think, is good at naturally explaining what all the tools do, which is a thing that some games are really bad at, right? It gives you a situation where you have these things to use, and I think it's generally good at explaining those. But then the other more complicated things, it just doesn't really try and explain, like obviously the warp core stuff is later on. It kind of explains that later on, but at the beginning, because I was doing the same. I was avoiding those to start with, right? Because you're like, those look like another type of meteor. Let's avoid them. But then when you get the warp core, it explains they're not. And it's like, well, it would have been nice to know so I didn't have to avoid those earlier on. And it's stuff like that I think is not great at explaining.
Yeah, I think the tutorial... I agree that the tutorial being half good is pretty accurate. And I think the game would be a lot better if the tutorial aspect was more directly connected to the delivery side of things, and it was almost just like, we are walking you through your first delivery in a much clearer way. I think that would it would change things significantly, right? And And just because I'm sure, well, I say sure, I'm fairly certain some of those options, as you were saying them, like you don't have to fly the plane, the spaceship yourself. Actually, are you saying that was like, oh, I do vaguely recall something like that being mentioned in the tutorial, but I only recall that now that someone else is saying that to me, right? I didn't recall it while I was playing the game.
Yeah, I think the problem is that that sort of thing, it tells you. And the problem is that telling you that sort of thing without some way of you actually doing it is not a good way of remembering things, right?
No, it's the tell over show, right?
Exactly.
You remember very little of what you told. You're much more likely to remember something if you're showing it.
Which I think shows very clearly in the fact that we're very clear on what the tools do, right? And those 3 tools I could just ring out to you without even having them written down. I did have them written down just in case, but I could absolutely tell you those 3 tools because in the tutorial it goes through those and you have to experience using them, and then on your first trip you end up using most of them as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what is left on my list? Upgrades.
I have a question. I have a question for you.
Yes.
Yeah, which I think is kind of related to upgrades, but what's your take on how good the story is of this game? Because to me, that's probably the one thing that I didn't really get into enough, and probably the thing that's the most interesting.
So I think, that's a good point. Without obviously giving too many details away, and the fact that I've not gotten a huge amount through it, but I have touched on some of the story. I think that's definitely the best bit, because I do think that Yahtzee's a very good storyteller, right? Like, he has a number of books, and in a way this kind of feels like one of his books in a game. And I think he has a certain type of humor that I think if you don't like his humor, then you're not going to enjoy it a huge amount. But it's things like that, the names of things are a bit kind of like, oh, that's stupid sort of thing, and I find that sort of humor quite funny. And like there's like points where like someone like kidnaps you on your own ship at one point, but you're still running the ship, and they're just like there the whole time telling you that they've kidnapped you, and they're there until you get them back to their ship. And that was the whole point. And it doesn't actually negatively impact you at all, but he's so confident in the fact that he's kidnapped you. I just find that sort of thing quite funny.
Yeah, that sounds pretty great.
So if you enjoy the kind of mechanics of this game, I think that it leads you into some quite fun story. It's probably not worth it if you don't enjoy the mechanics of the game,
That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think there's a huge amount to talk about in upgrades, right? Like, I think it could probably it's fine, right? Like, there are upgrades. You make your ship bigger, you make it more capable. It's doing that thing of I think a lot of us enjoying Stardew of like slowly building up this empire, and your ship is that version of things, right? Like, it gets bigger, therefore you can have more things in it. It has bigger warp core engines, therefore you can go farther, and just everything ends up being bigger slowly more over time, and I think that works quite well. But you have to enjoy playing the game to get to that point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry, you've just reminded me of one other frustration I had with this game. You can't use a door while you're holding a tool.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Yeah,
It's the most baffling decision. Why can I not use a door while I'm holding a tool? It's just like your hand is technically... And your hand being a tool kind of makes sense because you're picking things up and whatever. But like, come on, let me go through a door. Jesus.
Yeah, I agree. It's very, very funny. So yeah, I don't know why it was an odd decision, certainly. But so I guess it's conclusion time. I don't think I've convinced you that you don't hate this game. I think your opinion is probably pretty much the same.
Yeah. And look, it's nothing like it's one of those really frustrating things where I feel like it's a small number of very impactful decisions rather than me not liking most of the game. It's the fact that the things I didn't like, I encountered so early and found so frustrating.
Yeah.
I kind of didn't want to experience the rest of the game, which is really unfortunate, right? Because I am interested in things like the story and the humor and some of the jokes, but not at the expense of, you know, the mechanics of this game.
Yeah, for sure. I think this has come about in this way because I think Yahtzee has he has good ideas for what kind of, what to do in a game, and he had some ideas of this is what I want to do. And I think that those are in general good ideas and could have been a really good game. I think that when you are in the weeds of these things, it's hard to see how they're less intuitive for people. And I suspect that most people who have game test this are probably unlikely to tell Yahtzee when they don't like something. Does that make sense?
It does. Part of my day job is in doing user testing for products. And one of the things that I observe with a lot of people that I work with is they have a bias to listen towards the people that agree with their view of the world, right? So we often discount people that have different views of the world for a whole range of fun reasons, when actually those, it's really important to listen to your critics. And one of the hard things that I have to coach a lot of people on is it's not what you don't listen for what they're saying the solution is, right? Because people say, oh, I want this to be this way, right? Like me saying, I just want to be able to go through a door without holding a tool. Maybe there's a really good reason that choice was made, but what is important is to understand that the person giving that feedback is feeling something, and what is it that they're feeling? Well, I'm feeling frustrated, right? And is that the emotion that you're going for when you're playing a video game? Probably not. So how do you work past some of that stuff? And that is probably what I'd be most curious with in terms of the playtesting of this game, is how much of it was discounted as, they don't get it, or no, that's what I'm going for, rather than actually understanding the emotion behind what people were feeling, because I'm sure I'm not the only person that would feel this game and feel frustrated.
Yeah, I wonder whether it's more a case of just he is surrounded by people who like him and like his stuff and would have liked that anyway, sort of thing. I don't know. I also think there's a possibility that he has been a game developer for a long time, but primarily he is a reviewer and creator of fantastic rants. I really love his videos, and I think they're great, and often I agree with him. Not always, but often I agree with him. But what comes with that is a very legitimate and totally understandable urge to ignore people on the internet who are arguing with you, because generally it doesn't matter, shut up, right? Like when you're making content like what we're making right now, if someone comes in and says, no, I disagree, you're stupid, this game is great, what's the point in me replying to that, right? Like it doesn't improve anything. My opinion is my opinion. Our opinions are our opinion. His opinion is his opinion. And getting into an argument with someone who disagrees with you is completely pointless, and I 100% agree with that. The problem is that then doesn't translate into game design.
Correct.
I really wanted to like this game.
Me too. I did. I was so excited about this game, right? And I think I said at the start, I love the vibes of this game.
Yeah. And I do feel like it's very small things that could make this game much more fun.
Yeah. I think I agree, because for me, in its current state, I played a lot of games on this show that are not great, right? I think about one of the oh my god, the name of it walked out of my head, but Kevin and I did the episode on the tower game. That's going to frustrate me. And it was a game that was, it was like a little fox dude.
Yes. The Mexican company.
Yes.
What's that game called? Can't remember. That's going to annoy me. We're going to remember as soon as we stop recording.
Yeah. But that game, to me, wasn't great. But I could totally see what they were going for. And, like, I had a lot of fun with my time with the game, despite its flaws. And it had a lot of potential. And I wanted to play more of that game. This one, it's just, I wanted to play less of it. Which is a really sad place to be. Like, I don't want to be that down on a game, but that's where I've landed on Starstruck Vagabond. Do you think you'll finish this game, Al? Will you play more?
I think in its current state, probably not. And that's not because I don't think I do think I could have more fun with this game. But in the way that it currently is, I'm not like, I need to play this. You know, I'm not feeling that urge to play it, right? Like, I've stopped playing it so that I can play Go-Go Town and Dave the Diver, and I'm not like, oh, I wish I was playing it, you know? Whereas I do think about Dave the Diver when I'm not playing it just now, right? Because I'm like, oh, I want to get that next bit. And that was what I was like with Stardew, right? Like, I could never have got to perfection in Stardew if I wasn't constantly like, I need to finish this. This is in my brain and I need to fix the urge. That's not there for this. And I think it could be. If a few things would improve that we've discussed, I think I could absolutely get there. But yeah, I don't know if those things will ever get there or not. It's hard to know. And I've almost got the name of the game that you're talking about because I found one by the developer, and the game name is Lonesome Village.
Lonesome Village. There we go.
And now my brain can go to sleep. Apparently that was quite a long time ago because it's not been since we've started doing it on Notion, so I couldn't see it in the list.
Yeah, it would have been pre-Notion days. It would have been end of 2022.
Yes. Yeah, 2023 was when we started doing that. All right. Well, I think that's everything, unless there's anything else you want to talk about.
Yeah, actually, sorry, one last point. I think, like, with games like this, they're always going to be hit and miss. When I say games like this, I mean games from small developers. I think it's really important to support games like this. So if there is something about this game, like, go and watch the trailer. Like, if you can, buy it, because, like, supporting games on this size and the scale is way more important than buying, you know, the next AAA thing that's gonna sell millions of copies. Like, the way games get better is by having things out there that are trying to do something different. Not all of them will land, but it's important that they are supported. So that's probably my final point on Starstruck Vagabond.
Yeah, I agree. We were talking in a different Slack about when, like, there was this stupid article by this someone who was like talking about the shame of having, you know, how much money is being spent on games and games that people haven't played, and it was stupid, whatever. But the interesting conversation came out of it. Like, when do you feel guilty about buying a game and not playing it? And my argument was, if I buy a AAA game and I play less than 10 hours of that because I've not enjoyed it, I feel really bad about that. If I buy an indie game and I never play it, I'm never going to feel bad about that.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Like, and if I never put any more time into this game, I don't care, right? Like, I had some fun doing it, right? I didn't hate myself entirely, and I know that I have helped support the game, and, you know, not that Yahtzee needs my support, right? Like, he's big enough that he's going to make stuff anyway, but it is still an indie. No matter how big an indie is, they're still an indie, and they're still just a person, you know, just a person making things that they like, and that is good, full stop, even if they make a bad version of a game, you know.
I totally agree.
All right, cool. Well, Jonnie, where can people find you on the internet?
As always, you can't find me on the internet other than going to patreon.com/thspod. Support the great work that Al does here, and join the Slack where we talk about all of the fun games and you know, a bit more conversation recently with all of the, you know, games going into early access and stuff. I think quite a few people are trying out quite a few different games at the moment, so it's a good time.
Do we need another episode talking about the concept of early access? I feel like we've been talking about it a lot recently.
Al. No more talking about those sorts of things. Only game.
Look, we all love an episode where we don't have to actually prepare. Not that I don't have to, because I still have to get the list of news, and that still takes a long time. I do love how you say you can't find me on the internet. That feels like a challenge.
I mean, you absolutely can. It's just don't.
Please don't. It's not a challenge. Leave Jonnie alone. The only way you are allowed to talk to him is if you join the Patreon and go on Slack.
Correct.
Me, on the other hand, I will give my opinions on the internet all the time for some reason, and you can find that at my accounts on mastodon.scot and Twitter at thescotbot. You can find the podcast on Tumblr and on Twitter at thspod. You can find links to everything to do with the podcast and a feedback form on our website, harvestseason.club. One of those links is a link to our Patreon, as mentioned, patreon.com/thspod. You can get access to the Slack. You can also get access to our backlog of bonus episodes. We've got a few upcoming that have... We were meant to have one last week, but people got ill. Multiple people got ill, so we couldn't do it. So hopefully we'll have that soon. And we've got other ones coming as well. So keep tuned. Keep tuned? Tuned in? Tune in.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. That's what it is. Stay tuned. Words are great. I think that's everything. Thank you, Jonnie, for joining me.
Thank you, Al, for having me.
Thank you, listeners, for listening. And until next time, have a good harvest.
The Harvest Season is created by Al McKinley, with support from our patrons, including our pro farmers, Kevin, Stuart, and Elisa. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode.
Okay, happy?
Relatively.
Good to go?
Yes.